Thanks for being with us here on CBS News Chicago. We are streaming with breaking news that we have been following this morning of a chemical plant fire in the city of LaSalle, that is 84 miles southwest of Chicago, and we are getting details in now about how this all started. We just learned about it in the last 30 minutes, but we've learned that around 9 a.m. today, a fire sparked at the Carus Corporation plant. This was a 4-alarm fire. Immediately, that plant was evacuated. All of the workers got out. They are accounted for, and there are no injuries to report. However, fire officials there who now have control of the scene are telling residents that they should shelter in place because at this point, at least, we have not learned what chemicals from this plant may possibly be burning. We also have some visuals that have been shared on social media today showing the incredible clouds of smoke from this plant. You can also see how close that plant is to homes there, residences within the city of LaSalle. Our Chris Habermill is joining us. He's headed to that scene in Chopper 2. Chris, from the initial reports about what we know about this fire, again at the Carus Corporation, what are some of the first things that come to your mind in fighting a chemical plant fire?
Well, one of the things you're going to have to remember, too, is when firefighters, first responders get in there, they're going to need to know what's burning. So you got material safety data sheets. They're going to be meeting with the plant foreman. First and foremost, is everybody accounted for? And the word that I got from the scene there is that by 10 a.m. this morning, about 9:55, the report came out that all of the employees had been accounted for and were out of the building. So that is a good one. What you're seeing from these pictures here, it's kind of obscured by trees, but what you can see is, number one, a very vigorous burning fire, obviously. We've got chemicals that are involved in this, a lot of heat being released in a very rapid fashion there. And as the time goes along, we're seeing different phases of this fire.
Wow, that's some intense video, Chris.
You'll notice that, fortunately, a lot of that, This is up close and personal with the fire. This is what first responders are going to be seeing. Firefighters, when they first come into the scene, and heavy fire was reported coming out of the shipping area. You can see that there's a tank truck in the foreground there. That obviously is an area where product is kept prior to dispersal. They have a dedicated fleet of tanker trucks that they use on the road. This is a family-owned business, been around for a long time, more than a century. So they know what they're doing out there. Basically, the 3rd and the 4th Ward being affected by this on the east side of the city of LaSalle, and of course the city of LaSalle issuing the statement to please shelter in place while we get a handle on things. Right now, the smoke column that you're seeing there, what you're going to be doing as a firefighter is you're looking at volume, velocity, color, and density, and you've got everything going right here. So this is a full defensive operation. There's not enough GPMs to fight the BTUs that are coming out of this. In other words, there's not enough water on the planet to go ahead and knock that down. So basically what you're going to be doing is the operation is making sure that any other fuel that's in the area, any other chemical packages, whether it's a storage vessel or a tanker truck or any kind of a storage container, is cooled down. Of course, you're going to address the fire. You want to try and knock that down. But in cases like this, sometimes letting chemicals burn is a relatively efficient way to letting a lot of that hazard burn away, but unfortunately it does go up into the atmosphere. What I am seeing here is that the smoke column is rising well away from the surface. It's not being blown on a very stiff wind. It's not being held close to the ground by, let's say, rain. Here, a lot of the smoke column is going vertical, so it's lofting that up and away from the residential area that is around there. So that's a fortunate meteorological bonus that we have in this instance here, too.
Right. Chris, for those who don't know about Carus, I'd love to share briefly a little bit more information as our viewers see this video, and they may be wondering about this plant if you don't live in LaSalle. Again, this is 84 miles southwest of Chicago. But on its website, Carus Corporation talks about that what it does at this site is manufacture products that help its customers solve environmental concerns. They also make reference to laboratory testing related to this products. So obviously, a chemical plant there, a lot of possible fuel for the fire. Chris, we're so appreciative always of your knowledge of firefighting here, so I want to ask you two things. Oh, actually, now we'll go live to the fire. Chris, I'll ask you that question here in just a second. But this is from Chopper 2. Chris, thank you for bringing us this image. You're seeing that smoke, not quite as Chris, you know better than I do, not as centralized of a column of smoke right now. What does this visual tell you about where the firefight sits right now?
Basically, we're in a pretty good phase of this fire here, but as the smoke starts to cool, rather than hot smoke goes higher, farther, faster, the smoke, as it is starting to subside, as more water extinguishing agent is being put on this fire, it's starting a little bit more to hug the ground, because now you're getting smoke mixed with steam. You're getting a basically a conversion from the hot, readily charged, heat charged smoke that you saw before. You can see that the shipping area is in ruins in this plant right here, but it's spread out from its original point of origin. Obviously, there was a lot of radiant heat that spread out laterally from this fire. And for those of you who don't know, rather than just talking off the top of my head, I've been a training officer out at the Kirkland Fire Department, a fire lieutenant for almost 20 years. So I'm bringing into play a lot of the background information that I have gathered after a long time in the fire service here. So this is, of course, you've got a fourth alarm fire. You've got a second alarm EMS box. Not necessarily for any injuries, but you want to make sure that the potential is covered. You want to make sure that EMS is on standby in case, because now you're going to be dealing with the aftermath of burned chemicals. So things off-gas, different things, different elements, different substances produce different types of smoke, and the particulate matter that's in that smoke could be a wholly different animal than what it is when it's in its liquid or gaseous or solid form.
You can see that firefight there in the upper left corner as they try to put some water on this, Chris. But you said this is a huge scene.
It is a very large scene. It's going to be a complex scene that's going to be taking a lot of water to knock this completely down. Basically, as a full defensive operation, you can see that one hand line that's off in operation there is being handled by firefighters on the ground. Behind the tower ladder there, they're cooling off another vertical tower in order to try and keep that cool. You want to keep the area cool, address the product that has burned down there. You can see that they've got a pretty doggone good handle on what happened out here. So it seems to have burned through whatever storage containers it was in. It looks like there's a number of truck trailers that are there, some vertical storage vessels that are also there that have been charred, that have been burned, and that has been pretty much contained to that one particular space. Your manufacturing area, your warehouse area, your labs that you were talking about. This company does water treatment chemicals, air purification stuff, soil remediation, that type of thing. So there's a wide variety of chemicals that could be stored and transferred in any one place here. It also looks like they've got some externally braced vertical pipes that may have been going out to, let's say, a tank trailer transfer station there near the shipping department, and also a bunch of trailers, and there's also some steel-clad sided buildings on there. So again, it seems to be confined to the one portion of the operation, the shipping area here. The first engine that rolled up on the scene in the 9 o'clock hour reported heavy fire from the shipping area, immediately went to the second alarm level. It was very quickly raised to the third, then the fourth alarm, second alarm EMS box to bring ambulances out there, and everybody is in staging. So you can see that there's a lot of large diameter hose lines that are in use. We still have some product burning down. It looks to be the back end of a cab.
Right.
Of a semi there, and it looks like it might be the nose of the trailer, actually the cab itself. Right behind the cab, it looks like that's burning on top of the fifth wheel there. Yeah. So it's actually in the nose of the trailer. So that is kind of burned down the product that's obviously been in a couple of trailers that were backed into the loading dock area here, and starting to get a real good handle on this fire. So this bodes well, what I'm seeing. For the continued evolution of this fire. That,
they're getting pretty close.
You've got firefighters that are cooling things down. Yeah, they're actually working up. You can see that they've got their SCBA, their self-contained breathing apparatus, their air tanks on there. They're using their bottled air, and they're cooling off. You're like, why on earth are you cooling that off? Well, you don't want to have a pole that has obviously suffered some fire damage bring lines down and what have you, and already a lot of those power lines have burned away, so I'm sure that the utilities have already been shut down in that area, or they wouldn't be getting water next to something like that. So
right.
A lot of that infrastructure has been heavily damaged, been burned away. There's some blast damage there, obviously. Some explosions were reported very early on in the event sequence, but now that a lot of that product that was stored en masse has been burned away, that you're getting good water on the seat of the fire because the containers that we're in have ruptured. You've got open storage vessels, you've got tractor trailers that have burned open there that have melted and whatnot, and so now you got the chief here, you got another couple of companies of guys that are going over with plant personnel what is where, what goes where. Do we have any valves that we have to worry about? Do we have any external shutoffs that we have to worry about?
That's for sure.
Oh, it's going to be a long day. This is going to be basically the rest of this week that they're going to be out there working on this in some capacity.
Well, Chris, we appreciate your insight as always. As a fire lieutenant, you give us such great context about what a firefight looks like. We will check back in with you at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for that insight. I want to just re-rack everything here for our viewers who are watching. This is in the city of LaSalle. Carus Corporation chemical plant having a fire this morning around 9 o'clock. The plant was evacuated. No injuries to report. We're told all of the workers there got out safely. But there is still a lot of concern for people who live within the city of LaSalle. You see that cloud of smoke from this fire hanging pretty close to the ground. The city is asking that people who live there shelter in place until they get a better handle on possibly what could be burning and what effect it might have on the air quality. We're going to continue to stay over the scene. We'll be bringing you live pictures and updates at the top of the hour at our 11 o'clock newscast. But for now, here streaming on CBS News Chicago, we're going to leave you with these live pictures as fire crews continue to get a handle on this fire at the Carus Corporation chemical plant 84 miles south of Chicago.
This has been breaking news from CBS 2.